Hey, Becky. Can you hear me okay?
That you, Lord God Almighty,
Oh, hold on 1 second.
may one day say to me, you have
I was listening to, let's see, it was Beto O'Rourke and a couple of preachers were talking about racism in Texas. And I forgot that I thought I turned it off. And then all of a sudden, he came on the screen and he sounded like a Black Baptist preacher. And I was delighted and confused. I figured out where that tab was open in my web browser. Hi, Becky.
Don't worry about it. It's so nice to meet you.
It's so good to meet you and to see you in the pixels, I guess. Hi.
Yeah, but it is kind of an odd time to speak to any group, but I'm happy to do it. I'm delighted to receive an invitation.
Oh, good. Well, I'm delighted that you said yes. And I guess this is how else are we supposed to do it? It'll be interesting to see what happens to these conversations after quarantine's lifted and we can be back together again. It's been lovely.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to that day. I ask almost everyone I meet, when do you think this will be over? So I'll ask you, Liv, when do you think this will be over?
Okay, I'll get out my calendar here real quick. Also, Chuck Heineman is texting me, or Karen is. Let's see, what are they saying? Oh, I know that there are power outages. So.
I'm sure they're related to the wind.
They're just letting us know that Janet Narum will join us tonight, and she's the ex-daughter-in-law to Maxine Narum.
Well, and Janet Narum at one point was connected to the Star Project.
Yeah. Well, was Maxine Narum the program director at P? Oh, she was the program director at P. This is just such trivia. She was the program director at PUMC in the 80s and started Star in a room at Pioneer in the early 2000s. Yes. Maybe what the Heinemans are trying to get me to do is to do a nod to Pioneer's involvement.
Indeed. And if you weren't already planning on doing it, I am definitely planning on doing it.
Thank you for doing, hi, Zidane. Zidane, this is Becky. Becky, this is Zidane.
Hello.
Zidane is a senior at Whitman, and she is the community fellow at the Neighborhood Engagement Program at the City of Walla Walla.
Very nice.
Becky Turner is the executive director of the Star Project.
Indeed.
Yes, I think, Becky, we met for SCORE a couple of years ago. Yes. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. This wind, I've heard it's pretty bad in Walla Walla as well, but I'm in Central Oregon right now, and the wind has been bad for 24 hours. So
yes.
Hoping it doesn't.
Not been fun outside, I'll tell you that. Every time I've taken my dogs out today, they kind of look at me like, really? Really? You're gonna do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, go do your business, friends.
Yeah. Don't blow away. Our grill tipped over from our deck. It blew. It's a very heavy grill, and we came out this morning and it was just looked like it had just had too good of a time. It was on the grass. It was kind of funny.
Whoops. So when are you returning back to campus?
On Friday.
Ooh, so the time is coming.
Yes, yeah, I just actually finished watching a town hall. Students have to watch a town hall, and it was with our cabinet talking about returning and all of that, so that was a fun a fun time.
The whole mandatory quarantine.
Yep.
But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's discussion of like returning to in-person instruction.
Yeah, we, as of right now, we're hybrid, which is, so I have one class that's in person, which is kind of cool. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
I think at this point we're just so lonesome for other humans that getting
Anything
back to
works.
the office or getting back to the school is just like so exciting.
Yeah.
Such a great prospect.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm sure you'll talk about this more, but have you all been able to work in your office, or are you all just working from home still?
We have an adaptive model. We're not really able to see clients
Right.
in the office. The way that our offices are set up, there's in some of them I can't do 6 feet
Right.
physical.
Oh, gosh.
So that's tricky. So really what we're doing is we go to the office when we need to, if there's like something that needs a signature or something like that. But most of our work is done just exactly like this over Zoom or whatever works for people. And then we've been doing field work. We've actually been meeting clients out in their homes and in public spaces, you know, open air, masks and all of that. So we've been making it work. But I can tell you, very much looking forward to the day that we can go back to whatever normal is.
For sure. Yeah. No, my parents both work in corrections, or they work in for the justice department, like juvenile justice and parole and probation. And they have had to, they don't specifically, but they know people who are like having to meet with people, and they're like, Zoom is just not the same when you're trying to help like at-risk people. You're like, we need to read body language. Like you need to like have some energy reading, and Zoom, you just can't do that.
The tricky part with so many of our clients is that they are lagging in the world of technology.
Right.
You know, it could be because of a lengthy version or something like that, but for the most part, we just see folks that generally don't have the same.
ESPN.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Trying to figure out how to fix. My computer just keeps adjusting its brightness because it's having a minor stroke.
Oh.
So I was gonna see if they could explain how to adjust that, but then they decided they needed to show me a whole movie. I'm so sorry. Just
Always. This is the story of my life. Seriously, Liv. That's like from March 2020 to today, it has been marked by all sorts of technology issues and, weird stuff. So I would hope that people are pretty forgiving at this point.
Oh, my parishioners like to give me that it's their coaching. They coach me on how to do better on Zoom, which is fun coming from 70-year-olds.
Oh man. Am I going to have the ability to do a screen share?
We can. Oh no! Why is it still doing that? I told it not to adjust. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to? Let's practice it real quick. Just
sure.
Who can share? All panelists can share.
There it is.
Woo.
That's the screen I'm looking to share. It's a lovely PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
I think if I keep clicking, yep. Okay, we're good.
So last time we had a PowerPoint, let's see, other Becky, turned off her screen so we can see her, and it was fine, but I thought it was more compelling to be able to see her. When you start talking, Zidane and I are gonna hide ourselves, and I think Zidane usually turns off her camera. I'm just gonna go mute, and then
I just always look like I'm staring and I'm mad, so I turn off my camera so no one thinks that I'm mad.
I'm gonna look like a ghost, so yeah, confused.
You don't look like a ghost, Leave, I promise.
I think when I change the view, it goes to me. When I change the view from speaker to gallery, Zidane, we figured this out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whatever I'm telling it to do, it does.
Everyone will see. Yeah.
The thing I need to figure out is I have already, because we have a whole month between every meeting, I consistently forget what the settings are. Okay, so there's a setting in chat, which is that attendees can chat with all panelists and no one else. And how do I hide? Oh, that's what we did. It was, we had it on speaker view and then we mute.
Mm-hmm.
But then last time we moved into a gallery view. So I want to hide non-video participants. How do I do that?
Well, I think if we turn off our video when Becky's talking, then
Well,
should...
I don't think we disappear though, unless I set it up that way. Right?
If it's on speaker view, it should be.
Oh, well, on speaker view, but then when we need to go to gallery, there will just be an empty Zidane box, unless you come back.
I can come back.
There's also the option that like non-video participants are invisible.
Oh, whichever one.
So
My mom's just
sorry,
making cake right now, so I'm gonna be listening and paying attention. So I can be on camera whenever you need me to.
Okay.
With any luck, I will have a client in attendance today. I don't know if I need to put you on note that she'll be here. Her name is Cindy. Well, that was the request. Bring along a client if you can.
It's to be a panelist then, because webinar, they can't be seen or heard.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. Do you have an email for her? We're gonna need to get her on here right now.
I did, and again, I am not certain that she'll actually be here on time, but I forwarded the email that you had sent me, so she has the same link that I have.
But she's not registered as a panelist. So
okay.
Give me a second. Let me try and figure this out. And do you have any
Probably should have
information so that I
opened
can
with
introduce
that.
her? Do you have
one
her
more time?
Do you have her information so I can introduce her?
I do.
Or do you want to do that?
Let me grab her phone or her contact information. Her email address is CL.
Hold on one second.
Larson.
Oh. Okay. So what's her name one more time?
Her name is Cindy.
Cindy?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I'm ready for the email.
L.
Mm-hmm.
And then Larson. Larson. Yep, 2 L's. CLLARSON. And then the number 5.
Okay.
And she's at gmail.com.
Okay. So I have sent this. So she should be getting a new email. Or
Perfect.
it's possible that the link will now work for her, but if she is able to join us, that would be great. We're gonna broadcast in 1 minute. But if she joins late, that's we'll figure it out then, no problem.
I tried to make it a low pressure situation for her. Strangely enough, I tutor her. That is her role at the STAR project. She's a client, and she's currently going through Walla Community College courses, and she hooked up with me because I was the person who was most adept at algebra.
That is quite an
so she and I do algebra homework.
That's wonderful.
And she's moved on to statistics. So, but I wasn't planning on having her be a really large component. In fact, mostly just as an aside. Here's what the STAR project does. This is what we do. These are who we, these are the people that we are. And, these are the types of services that we provide. And while I'm talking about education, Cindy might be here. So just give her a quick shout out. And I would imagine if there are questions at the end, it is possible that people will have questions for her.
Okay, that sounds good. So when do we want to introduce her then? Because if she joins us here in the gallery, why don't, if she joins while I'm talking, we'll just when I turn it over to you, you can say, and while Leave was doing introductions, we were joined by Cindy, and this is Cindy, and introduce her. And then, yeah, if she feels comfortable doing work with, after that point, after you say hi to Cindy, we'll maybe go to speaker view. And so,
Okay.
because I think that I can mute, then we don't have to explain things to Cindy while we're in the middle of a webinar.
Okay.
Then mute her, and then we'll go from there. Okay. I'm gonna broadcast and just start welcoming people in. Oh, yay! Hi, Cindy, the other Becky.
Hey, there's Cindy.
Hi.
We can change her name.
Yes. Hi. Okay. So which one?
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome, honey. I'm sorry I clicked on the international link first.
Hey, these things happen.
It does.
Okay. All right. So I think I changed the right person. Yes. Good. Okay. Cindy,
got
welcome.
it.
We're so glad that you're here with us today. We're going to broadcast. So I'm going to start talking to invisible strangers in just a moment. Don't be
Okay,
surprised. I'm just gonna give
good.
you a call. Okay.
All right.
We'll see them coming over here over here.
And I am to pronounce your name Leave, not Live.
It's Leave. It's one of those weird names that doesn't make
Okay.
any phonetic sense.
That's
Hey.
okay. That's okay. We're adaptive.
Yes, that's good. It's a Norwegian name. It means life.
Oh.
Hi, Mario. Hi, Claudia.
Cool.
It's really good to see you guys here tonight. Welcome. So Don, did you have any notes for the good of the order today during intro? No? Okay, sounds good. I hope that the wind doesn't knock out your internet. Hi, Chuck. All right, and just FYI, Zidane, it's hiding non-video participants. So if you ever decide that you need to disappear for a moment, no problem. Well, hello to those who have joined us. We're letting people come in. We're really excited for our conversation tonight. Oh, hi, Margaret. Hi, Beth. So Margaret discovered the chat feature, which is what we're going to need later on tonight. And I'll mention this again in just a few moments, but for Q&A later tonight, send us a chat, and that comes to all of the panelists and the host. You can send your questions there, and whenever they bubble up, we'll try and keep good track of them. So if you come up with a question early on, send it in, and if you come up with one during Q&A, perfect, send it then. We're just excited to hear what you guys are thinking about and answer questions. And by we, I mean Becky. Hey, Joe and Carol. Give people a few minutes to file in tonight. I heard that the wind knocked out a power line in town, but they got it right up again. There's just been some crazy weather. So Don's reporting in from Central Oregon and says that it is quite windy down there too. So I hope that we can all maintain internet access tonight, because this is going to be a wonderful conversation. Just give folks a couple more minutes. Welcome everybody to Mary Lynn and Mark. Hi guys. Hi Wendy. Nice to see your names popping up there. Okay. All right, well, let's kick things off because I think tonight is going to be a really rich conversation. I want to make sure that we have all the time that we need. We only meet for an hour at Walla Walla Speaks, and we're pretty careful to guard our time. So welcome, my friends, to this gathering of Walla Walla Speaks. I'm Leave Gibbons. I'm the associate pastor here at Pioneer United Methodist Church here in Walla Walla, and I am joined by tonight's speaker, Becky Turner, Executive Director of the STAR Project, and her client, Cindy, as well as Don Gallant-Laporte from the city's Neighborhood Engagement Program. Walla Walla Speaks came out of conversations that we were having at church about the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. And a group of parishioners and clergy decided that we needed a place where we could amplify the voices of those working for justice and mercy in our community, and a place where neighbors could gather in the midst of COVID to listen and learn together. We are so glad that you have joined us tonight because we are so excited about this topic, about reentry, and inspired by the work of our friends at the STAR Project. STAR was founded in 2004 to serve people with felony convictions in Walla Walla and Columbia counties. And this nonprofit serves about 130, 150 people every year. They begin the work inside the Washington State Penitentiary with pre-release transition, and then they provide case management and housing and employment assistance to former inmates so that they have the tools that they need to successfully, healthfully, productively reintegrate into the community. Before I turn you over to Becky Turner, who, in case you missed it, is STAR's Executive Director, I'll let you know that after Becky speaks, we'll turn to you for questions, and you can send these to us via the chat feature down at the bottom of your screen. So Becky, if you are ready, take it away.
Thank you so much, Leave. I am just delighted to be here. This is very exciting for me, and frankly, I think that how this all came about with Walla Walla Speaks, that's beautiful. Amplifying some of the voices within Walla Walla is such a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. And time is right to do it. I am just so excited to talk about reentry and specifically how we're doing things in Walla Walla. So what I will start by doing is I'm going to try to do a screen share, and we'll get my lovely little presentation up and ready to go. Okay, so again, Leave already introduced me. My name is Becky Turner, and I'm the Executive Director of the STAR Project here in Walla Walla. I'm going to do my utmost to respect everybody's time and make sure we wrap this up within 1 hour's time. Now, there is a lot to say about successful transition and reentry, so let's get started. I've got on the screen a little blip with our mission, our vision, and the fact that we're a 501c3 nonprofit operating out of Walla Walla, Washington. Now, what do? Our goal is to get people back on their feet just as soon as possible after they leave incarceration. We serve people with felony convictions, whether they were incarcerated in a prison, whether they were incarcerated in a jail. Our prerequisites for service include you have to have a felony conviction, and you need to be released from jail or prison within the last year in order to qualify for housing. And you either need to be on DOC supervision in Walla Walla County or not on DOC supervision at all. So if someone's being supervised by Umatilla County, we're gonna have to do some county transfer stuff before we can actually serve a person here in Walla Walla. A little bit more about us. We are a very unique organization within Washington State. We are the only nonprofit organization that provides a holistic approach to reentry services. And we do so in a method that's consistent with best practices as far as they're defined by the Department of Justice. Other reentry services certainly exist, but their programs can vary widely from county to county. And STAR is unique in that all of our programs exist under one roof. As a result, we're able to minimize reentry related referrals. And we do, and it's important for me to note, we do provide people with referrals if they have substance use disorders or mental health disorders that require treatment. We are not a treatment provider. We are social workers to our core. So why would we need to help people with felony convictions? Well, when you're released from incarceration, you have very few resources. Most people are released in DOC-issued clothing, easily recognizable. I know if a gentleman comes to the front office at the STAR Project and he's wearing a white t-shirt and khaki pants, I can tell you right off the bat that that person was recently released from Washington State Penitentiary. So they have very few possessions. They may have a box with all of the things that they had collected while they were incarcerated, but very few of them have a support network once they go home. In fact, I've got lots of stories, particularly one from a Pioneer United Methodist parishioner, Mike Howell. He likes to tell me about how he was mentoring a STAR client long ago, and that person was really concerned that he was going to be released back to his parents. And that person said, well, they make me sell drugs in order to pay my rent. That's not a good support system to release to. That is a recipe for going back to jail or prison. And so our approach is to kind of stop that cycle. So one of the things that people receive when they are released with a felony conviction from incarceration, you get a $40 check known as a gate fee. You've got the clothes on your back and you're told, go and sin no more. Well, anyone can tell you that it takes a whole lot more than $40 and a bus ticket to rebuild a person's life. A felony conviction is going to disrupt your home. A felony conviction is going to disrupt your employment. Virtually every aspect of your life is going to be upended as a result of your conviction. So we'll keep on going. Before I move on, I meant to say about the STAR Project, we were founded in 2004, and it's important to note that we were founded in part by volunteers from Pioneer United Methodist Church. We owe Pioneer United Methodist Church a great debt of gratitude for they allowed us to have office space down in the basement. Janet Narum was one of our original founders. I believe she may be in the audience today. So we have a very awesome community within Pioneer United Methodist Church, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to speak with you tonight. It kind of brings us back to our roots. This is where we've gone and how we've grown since you nurtured us and started us up. Okay, moving forward. So why would a person commit another felony crime and go back to jail, even though they had the very best of intentions when they left? I'm not going to go back to that life. I'm not going to do the same thing that got me in trouble. Well, ultimately, it comes down to going from a totally controlled environment to limitless free choice. There are so many stories about our newly released people where something that we would think is very simple or elementary is debilitatingly difficult for a person who's recently released. A quick example is taking somebody to a grocery store to pick out a box of cereal. A lot of times we'll hook people up in order to have food on the table tonight, just so you know you're not going to go hungry. and we'll work on food benefits later. If you bring somebody who has been incarcerated for 10, 20 years into a grocery store, you put them up against that aisle and they see just limitless choice, or what seems to be limitless choice, it's a recipe for a person to break down. I have seen grown men, 6'3", 350 pounds, out of nowhere just start crying because they couldn't make a choice, because they haven't had the opportunity to make a choice in years. They've been told what time to get up, what time to go to bed, what you're going to eat. Everything seems unfamiliar when you're new. So here's the cycle of recidivism as the STAR Project sees it. We're going to start with this released, overwhelmed by choices and freedom. And then at that point, you got to meet your basic needs. Everybody has the same basic needs: food, shelter, a sense of belonging. If it's difficult to meet those basic needs, you're going to find that you're struggling to fit in to society. When you're struggling to fit into society, you're going to seek comfort however you can. And at the STAR Project, seeking comfort for our clients is usually going back to drugs. When we look at our clients and we do intake paperwork, we ask a whole gamut of questions, one of which is, do you have addiction issues, or do you have any sort of drug-related convictions? 96% of our clients say yes. That's a self-reported number. So you can imagine that the real number is even higher. So when I'm looking at STAR clients, I know that I'm talking to people who are struggling with addiction. And that's usually kind of the place that we can start rebuilding people. Now, if a person is seeking comfort and they're looking to go back to old habits, that looks like drug use. If you're using drugs, you're going to break your parole, you're going to commit another offense, just like that, and you're going to find yourself reincarcerated. And every time the person goes through the cycle, it gets that much harder to break the cycle. And so what we do is we try to break it off right at the head. As soon as a person comes out of incarceration, earlier if we can make contact with them while they're still incarcerated, as soon as they come out, that's the time to seize the opportunity. And that's the time that you can start writing behaviors. So how do we do it? Well, we've got several different programs. The first one is pre-release transition. And whenever possible, we make sure to make contact with people while they're still incarcerated. Now, that's pretty easy if we're talking about people who are at Washington State Penitentiary. But not every single person at Washington State Penitentiary is going to release to Walla Walla. And not every single person releasing to Walla Walla is coming from Washington State Penitentiary. So it gets really confusing trying to keep track of our pre-release transition clients, because they could literally be anywhere in Washington State. The common thread with them is that they're coming home to Walla Walla. That's their county of origin. That's the place that they're going to call home. So a person needs to be released to Walla Walla, but other than that, we're willing to work with almost anyone in pre-release transition. While people are a captive audience, it's a lot easier to make contact and kind of get that excitement for reentry going. Of course, we coordinate locally for people who are looking for housing directly after release, particularly, and I want to give a shout out to our friends at Oxford International. It is a clean and sober living group that has independently run houses all over the world, including 3 in Walla Walla. So the unifying thread of all STAR clients is that they participate in our case management program. And a person could ask, well, what does case management do? And the answer is, well, it's different for everybody, because all of our case management is really highly individualized. We can do reentry planning. We can do coordination with the Department of Corrections, coordination with local treatment providers, substance use disorders, things like that. We also have an in-house cognitive behavioral therapy program known as moral recognition therapy. But case management could be anything. It could be family reunification. It could be, I've got some old fines and fees that I need help trying to iron out and make myself right as far as the tax man is concerned. Whatever the client identifies as their highest priority or anywhere on that list, that's what we're going to go with for that particular person. We have a housing program, and the housing program is probably one of our biggest draws in terms of clients coming and seeking services. We have 19 single occupancy units, and we use a master lease, which means we don't actually own any of the properties that we rent. Instead, we work with landlords to provide them incentives. We make sure that I'm paying the rent on the first of the month, no matter what. After that, we're going to work with the client to see whether or not they're like a self-pay person, or if they've got a different agency who's helping them with a housing voucher. One thing that's important to note is that the STAR project uses a clean and sober model for all of our housing locations. So we require that a person remain drug and alcohol free throughout the duration that they are in STAR housing. For that reason, it can make the STAR project a little bit trickier to fund, at least in terms of housing. It means that we don't currently qualify for any housing and urban development grants. They use a housing first model. But when we think about what STAR clients actually need, what they need and what our mission is to prevent recidivism. I know that if a person's using drugs or alcohol or any other illicit substance, ultimately they're going to break their parole. And that doesn't help me achieve my mission of reducing recidivism. So in order to keep a person on the right path with the Department of Corrections, I have to make sure that person is drug and alcohol free. Now, I also think it's important to note that we don't take a super hard line when it comes to relapse. We recognize that relapse is a normal part of recovery. And what I'm looking for with clients is to make sure that it was just a bump in the road as opposed to a return to a lifestyle. One of the interesting things about the housing program is that it is costly. It comprises about 46% of our annual budget. Moving on to employment and education. And at the end of this slide, I'll give a shout out to my client that's in the room right now, Cindy. So within our employment and education programs, we can do resume writings, we can do job searches, we can do all sorts of stuff. Employer outreach, coordination, long-term placement assistance. It is not uncommon for somebody, an employer, to call us a year or longer and say, hey, I'm having a problem with so-and-so. I was wondering if you could kind of help mitigate that. And one of the things that we find with employers who are engaged in our employment program is that if you give a person a second chance as an employer, you will often find one of the most loyal and hardworking people you'll ever employ. And so for that reason, most of our employers that work with us come back again and again. We can provide people with information on licensing, bonding, all of that legal stuff. And then, of course, interestingly enough, employment is one of our few standalone services. Important to note with social services, you want to do the lightest touch. If a person comes in and all they're looking for is a bag of food, I'm not going to say, hey, well, what about housing? I'm going to meet the person where they are. If a person needs a toothbrush, they come to me looking for a toothbrush, I'm going to hand them a toothbrush. I might leave the door open and say, is there anything else I can help you with today? But I'm not going to go crazy trying to put services into somebody's face. We're happy to meet whoever, wherever they're at. We also have an in-house employment readiness service, lovely little class that we put on not during COVID. And then, of course, most importantly, and where Cindy intersects with us, is we provide assistance with higher education. It is not uncommon for me to help somebody fill out a FAFSA. It is not uncommon for me to help a person get registered for classes. And if I can ask you, Cindy, what were we working on earlier today?
Oh, goodness. My statistics class. Yes.
So
Amazing.
if what the person needs is help with their homework and statistics, thank you, Cindy, then that's exactly what we're going to do. We're here to help people however it is that they need to be helped. Cindy, is there anything else you want to say about education or how the STAR project can help with that?
Well, yeah, Becky, STAR Project has just been such a rock in my recovery and my transition into life. I'll throw out here that I have 2 years and 1 month clean, drug-free, felony-free, completed adult recovery court, and I'm on the fast track to life. And if I hadn't gotten the lift up and the assist from the people at the STAR Project, I don't know if I could have done this at all. Not by
Thank you
myself.
so much, Cindy.
So thank
That
you,
is-
Becky. Yes.
That's so sweet. Thank you. And I'm
Very
sorry to have put you on the spot. Just then.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
I owe you a coffee. But so that's really what we do. We're here to help people however it is that they need to be helped. We can do any other individualized service. We can help people with legal financial obligations, family reunification needs. We've got monthly group dinners that happen none other than at Pioneer United Methodist Church. And very, very exciting to note, we are currently working on reinvigorating our community mentor program. That was one of the many things that Pioneer United Methodist Church did for us. And I'm looking to actively onboard new mentors. So if you're sitting here in the audience thinking, well, this sounds like something I might be interested in connecting with, the very last slide has my contact information. I would encourage anybody to reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in being a mentor. In general, I am very interested in talking to anybody who attends Pioneer United Methodist Church. You guys have been great to us in the past, and I expect wonderful things moving forward. So why would anyone want to reduce recidivism? Well, there is certainly a moral consideration. It is, in my opinion, the right thing to do for people who are struggling to reach out and help them. But if I can't get a person on the moral consideration, I can probably get somebody to understand recidivism is very costly. It is a very costly thing, not only for our state, but for the soul of the people who inhabit it. So first we have to talk about what recidivism is. And in Washington state, we have a fairly narrow definition. It is any felony offense committed by somebody within 36 months of being at risk in the community that results in a Washington state conviction. So it has to be a felony, it has to be in Washington state, and it has to be within 36 months of release. That's the definition that the state is rolling with, and that's the definition that I'm going to be able to compare ourselves to. So most recently, Washington state statistics were that approximately 32, almost 1 in 3 chance of going back to jail or prison. And the STAR Project calculates it the exact same way. Our recidivism rate is 14.4%. We calculate recidivism. That's one of the things that we're doing in January. We do it every year just to make sure that our information is as up to date as possible. And I can tell you that if you come through the STAR Project, you have less than half of the state recidivism. And so what does that look like when we actually talk dollars and cents? Well, this information is published by the Department of Corrections, and it was more recently updated in 2015. So we can make an assumption that the cost of incarceration has not reduced since 2015, and in fact has gone up. As the Department of Corrections publishes new statistics, I'll update this slide, and I suspect that the cost is going to increase. Now, it gets a little tricky when they talk about the average direct cost per day and average felony sentence length, but I did the math for you, and I made sure to cite my sources down at the bottom. It costs about $111,000 for every person who recidivates. So every single person who goes back to jail or prison on a new felony charge ultimately is going to cost us as taxpayers about $111,000. So if I can't convince somebody that helping your fellow man or woman is the right thing to do in terms of morality, generally people aren't too impressed with the price tag of what reincarceration costs us. So here are some statistics from 2019. And I can tell you that we have run these numbers backwards and forwards, and I've got all sorts of reports that show these numbers. We served 158 people in 2019. Now, for every 158 people who are released, the state recidivism rate is going to predict 51 new felony offenses within the first 3 years of reentry. As much as I want recidivism to be zero, we can get close to it, but the likelihood that we will find a zero recidivism rate is fairly unlikely. So we want to get that number low. If those same 158 people came through the STAR project, and they did, our recidivism rate only predicts 23 new felony offenses during the first 3 years of reentry. So that means that just for Walla Walla alone, our reduction in recidivism, just the people working at STAR, there's only 6 of us, we prevented 28 local families from becoming victims of crime. We prevented 28 people returning to incarceration. We prevented the breakup of 28 different families who would have been separated by reincarceration. That's 28 people who didn't lose their job, who didn't go back to jail, and who didn't spend $111,000 while being incarcerated. If we prevent 28 cases of recidivism, we save Washington state taxpayers over $3 million in incarceration costs alone. Now, there are a lot of soft costs. It's difficult to calculate what the cost of a kid, third grade kid, whose dad is about to go to prison, what that means to him in terms of childhood development. The thing that really makes me impassioned about working at the STAR project isn't necessarily the $3 million that we saved taxpayers. It's the fact that this third grade kid's dad didn't go back to jail. They stayed together as a family unit, and they were able to continue trudging along on their own life's path. That's huge. That's huge. Before I worked at the STAR project, I was a kindergarten teacher, and I'm very interested in serving our community. I'm particularly interested in serving our community kids. And one of the things that really drew me to the STAR project was the fact that I get to broaden my impact and see this amazing work that this organization does throughout the entire community. When I'm teaching kindergarten, it's a wonderful job. I only get to impact 30 little lives every year. At STAR, the sky's the limit. If I write an awesome winning federal grant, I can increase that number of 158. We could serve more people. At any given time, there are about 150 people on Department of Corrections supervision, like right now. So we're only scratching the surface of who we could serve. And what we're doing is we're serving the most needy people, which is the appropriate thing to do. But I think about the trajectory that stemming recidivism and helping people who would otherwise not have centralized help, what that does for a person's life path. I take a look at Cindy, and I know that she's in her second year of college. right now. And I know that she's got an ability to have a job, her wage, support her family, and ultimately kind of repay that good back into the world. The people that we serve tend to be very grateful, and it's not lost on them that someone gave them a second chance, and they end up becoming brokers later down the road for other people and advocating for second chances. What we do has a butterfly effect that not only affects our community, but affects our state. And that is it. There are so many other things to talk about. I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of time for people to ask questions, maybe of me or maybe of Cindy. So feel free to use the chat feature and give me some of those questions.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
I went ahead and closed that wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Becky. Let's see. Let's go to gallery view. So
I see a question from Susan Palmer.
got it.
How has the pandemic affected our services? Oh, greatly. We are still serving the same number of people. We're still doing exactly what we have done in terms of the different programs that we have, but many of our offices, depending on which particular office you're talking about, might not actually have 6 feet of space between us. So staff members are working out of the office as necessary. They're also working from home as necessary, and I'm trying to be as flexible as humanly possible with that. As far as direct services, we can meet people with Zoom. We can do whatever video conferencing software they're more comfortable with. Text messages have worked with people. And then we're making house calls twice a week. So what we do is we go out into the field, we meet people where they are, we stay physically distant, within 6 feet of one another. We've got masks on, and we make contact with people out in the field about twice a week.
Tech wondered.
What are the most?
Yep. Go ahead.
Sorry, what are the most common crimes that send your clients back to prison? Drugs, without question. It's always drugs. Now, it could be a drug-related offense, and I would include like a drug-motivated burglary as ultimately connecting to this was drug-related. But 9 times out of 10, if a person's going back, it's for drug use. We don't see a whole lot of violent crime, a little bit, but mostly drugs.
Got a question from Beth, asking if you might talk a little bit more about your experience helping clients find employment.
Yes, I would be delighted. So many people are kind of reticent to hire a person with a felony conviction because you don't know if they've made that change in their life. And so that's one of the reasons why working with the STAR project can be important. If you've got an organization that's vouching for you that says, yep, this person's on the right track, and if you find that you have trouble, you can call them directly and we'll talk about it. That usually kind of brings enough calm to a person to say, okay, I'm willing to give this person a second chance. So like many employment situations, it is kind of who you know, in that an employer might call us up and say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who has experience running a cash register. I'm not looking for someone who has any monetary based crimes. Okay, we can do something like that. So we kind of go through the caseload, determine, okay, this person had a theft, so that's probably not going to be the right choice here. And that's kind of how we do it. And we leave that door open. We make sure that the employer knows that they can contact us whenever. And I love to hear positive stories about people. Hopefully that answered that enough.
So Margaret was wondering about higher education for folks with felony criminal convictions on their records. the wondering was, are felons eligible for higher education? Can they get financial aid?
And they sure are. And I love outreach opportunities because I get to kind of write some of those questions. The short answer is yes. People with felony convictions are most certainly eligible for federal student aid. There is one key exception. It's if a person was convicted of a drug crime while actively receiving financial aid, they are no longer eligible in the future. So as long as a person wasn't receiving federal student aid at the time that their conviction happened, yes, they can continue to go back to school. Not a problem.
Wonderful. Question from Chuck about funding. Where's it coming from for the STAR project?
3 places. The primary place right now, our big driver, is a federal grant that we got back in 2018. This is the year that it will sunset, so I need to get quick on finding something that replaces it. So we are a Second Chance Act grantee through the United States Department of Justice. That is currently providing our administration services. As far as housing and case management are concerned, we have 2 grants from the Walla Department of Community Health. So right now, ultimately, I can say, just as a blanket statement, we are grant funded. More specifically, one of those grants is from the feds, and then 2 are from the county.
So Claudia has a great question. Would you describe the staff working with the STAR project, and how would mentors be used in the program? And I'm wondering if Claudia is wondering about how community members could join in as mentors. If I was a betting woman, that's what I'd bet.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, tell us about the staff. Tell us about mentorships.
So we're pretty diverse in terms of skill sets at the STAR project. Typically, our program staff tend, and this is not always the case, but right now our program staff happen to be female, and our administration staff, with the exception of myself, happen to be male. Now, I have also been with the organization for several years, and I've seen that flip-flop. So right now, talking about program staff, we've got 3 women who are running our programs, and they are fairly diverse when we talk about their backgrounds. Lucinda Victorio is our housing coordinator, and she is a student right now. She's going through a master's program. She originally came to us directly after she had gotten her bachelor's degree, and she worked for Child Protective Services. So she saw the STAR project as kind of an extension of her helping children navigating crisis. Karen Gleason is our case manager, and interestingly enough, she came to us from the Department of Corrections. She had previously held jobs at both the Washington State Penitentiary and Walla County Jail. And she was frustrated that when a person leaves incarceration, that's that, and she can't help them anymore. So she was really looking for something to kind of help her work out what's next for our clients. Linnell Parrish is our employment specialist / reentry specialist. And she originally came to us from Blue Mountain Action Council, where she worked as an employment specialist there. For a long time, I got to share her with Blue Mountain Action Council, and she worked half-time for us and half-time for BMAC. And then at some point a couple of years ago, I was able to steal her away and have her work for us full-time. When I look at the degrees that people have within staff, I've got somebody with a criminal justice degree. I've got an education degree. I've got somebody with a social work degree, and I think Linnell's is a journalism degree. So we're pretty varied. when it comes to our backgrounds. Of course, our accountant is he's got his master's in accounting. He's an important guy with that. And then my executive assistant, interestingly enough, is doesn't have a pedigree, but instead has a skill set that is unmatched. And so he runs our tech. I think that's it. Oh, how would mentors be used for the program? We're going to hope to put mentors in our pre-release transition program. I'm looking to have somebody from the community be a friendly face or an existing relationship, friendly mentoring, as a person is releasing. One of the best practices within the field of reentry is having someone within the community who's looking out for you. Now, the STAR Project obviously is that entity, but I'm looking for, I don't want to describe it as a more casual relationship, but a less rigidly professional relationship. Somebody who you can have a cup of coffee with and just shoot the breeze and talk about how things are. What we're looking for in mentors is, do you have the capacity to care about another person? Do you have the capacity to stay professional and, you know, have an appropriate relationship with people? Do you have a couple hours a month to spare? And are you willing to be an advocate for second chances? Those are really the primary qualifications.
Thanks, Becky.
Next.
I'm going to ask a question because I'm personally curious, and we are, I think, as I was thinking of a question, we just had one more come in. But I'm kind of curious, moving away from maybe like more logistical specifics of the STAR project, but what your kind of thoughts are on how the criminal punishment and criminal justice system might change as a result of COVID, and how you kind of see the mission and vision of STAR fitting into that adaptation and evolution in this time that we're living in and what will come since.
That's a good top level question. I can tell you this. I know that shortly after George Floyd, there was a letter that was circulating around nonprofit organizations, basically saying that racism exists. Racism exists. It exists everywhere. It exists in Walla Walla, and it's something that we should be taking a look at. And so I was more than happy to join the fray. Blue Mountain Heart to Heart was part of that spearheading movement. The County of Walla Walla was also interested in it. So I'm very happy to jump in and say, yeah, when I take a look at STAR Project clients, demographically, they don't necessarily always fit in with what we would expect to see in the community. I have a higher than one would expect, as far as our census is concerned, outreach to people of color. We have more people of color in service than would have been predicted by our census. So that tells me that people of color are, in fact, disproportionately affected by the criminal justice system. I can also tell you that people of color tend to be at a disadvantage when it comes to releasing. Whether it is, you know, part of a generational poverty thing, whether it is, it's complex, but people of color who are being served by the STAR Project don't tend to have the same support systems either within the community or within their family that their white counterparts do at the STAR Project. So it is certainly a problem. What do I think is going to happen as a result of the pandemic? There has been a smattering of what's known as compassionate releases as a result of the pandemic. And I will say this, it makes a whole lot of sense to me that we wouldn't want to have overcrowded prisons, particularly in a time where close contact like that is a real risk factor when it comes to COVID transmission. When we're looking at the compassionate release people, they're usually within 6 months of release anyway. So these are people who are coming out imminently. why not? Now, what I would like to see is in general lower sentencing, particularly for certain type of crimes. But I really want to focus on the reentry aspect of it. We've had a bunch of compassionate releases, but the people who have been released with no support systems whatsoever. The couple gentlemen that we've served that were compassionate releases due to COVID, the moment they were no longer considered actively incarcerated, so they were released, let's just say June, and their sentence was supposed to be up at the end of August. On September 1st, the Department of Corrections stopped paying for their housing voucher. So we had some people who were actively in housing being served. We were working on, and they were on ankle monitoring. We weren't able to get them employment because they couldn't leave their house. So they were overjoyed to return that ankle monitor on August 31st, only to be told, okay, well, the Department of Corrections is now officially done with you, and good luck. Good luck. And so we would get phone calls of people who were very scared. Are you guys going to leave us too? No, we're here for the long haul. Whatever comes, we're here for you. So
okay. So what I'm kind of hearing is like you're wanting potentially re-entry to continue to be obviously serviced and funded and all of that, and with particular like these compassionate releases, that it isn't just like we're letting you go because of COVID, but we're also like we're letting you go with the exact same like support that anyone who's being released from prison would get.
Yeah, I would love to see reentry taken really seriously by the Department of Corrections. I want to be careful that I'm not putting anyone under the bus, because our relationship with DOC is incredibly important. And I can tell you that when it comes to the individual officers, particularly the men and women of the Field Supervision Office, I mean, I wouldn't be able to do my job in the same capacity without a positive relationship with them. So they're awesome, and I'm really grateful. But coming from again, it was a high level question. High level, I would like to see Washington State legitimately fund reentry as a branch of the Department of Corrections.
That sounds compelling to me. Shoot. A quick question from Beth, and then I had a question for Cindy, if Cindy's up for sharing. Beth is wondering, we got a rundown of your employees. She's wondering if you use student interns. Do you ever have interns?
Oh, I sure do. At any given time, I have 1 or 2 interns. If someone's interested in an internship, I would recommend that they reach out just as soon as possible, because those beauties book up about a year in advance. So if you are a current sophomore, I can probably get you in. If you're a junior, it might be tight, but we'll do what we can. As a person who was formerly engaged with education, it hasn't been that long ago. I mean, ever longer ago it has been, but it hasn't been that long since I was in the same position. And I recognize that having intern opportunities is really important. And that's one of my commitments, just as an executive director of STAR. I'll always host interns. I like it.
Cindy, here's my question.
And I have 6 staff members.
Cindy, my question for you, and you can answer this or not, it's totally up to you, but I was just, something that Becky said made me think. She said, she's talking about this program for folks who can come alongside people while they're in their pre-release program, and just kind of be friendly faces in the community after release. And I thought of them kind of as neighbors. And I was wondering if you could create the perfect neighbors for folks re-entering the community, what would those neighbors be like, and what would they do, and what would be their qualities? What would you be looking for in a neighbor?
Gosh, I think being non-judgmental and understanding, I know Becky talked about compassion, and 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 then, we did stuff and we're accountable. But then when we get transition back into society, those are some of the face-to-face things that you learn to deal with. But that's something I would just just somebody that's friendly and open.
Yeah.
When you're incarcerated for so long, you're not nice, healthy conversations from prison or jail. It's really unhealthy. It's an unhealthy environment to come out of. So whatever we can do to, yeah, I guess that's all I would think. I would love to be a mentor, Becky.
Ooh, well, we've got additional things to talk about on Thursday then.
Yeah, I love what Cindy said.
Yeah.
And Cindy, and you were talking about, Becky, you were saying that folks who had been released have these special gifts to come back, and you call them brokers, which I think is wonderful. And I can tell Cindy really knows what people need, because she's been there, to have someone who's compassionate and non-judgmental and who can walk with you slowly and gently as you try and figure out how to have a healthy conversation again. That's really powerful. Thanks, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Margaret asked if the recording will be on our website, and it sure will. So the website is www.pioneerww.org/WWS. We wanted to use all the W's that there were, and I think we did well. So it's just our website, pioneerww.org/WWS, as in Walla Walla Speaks, and that'll take you there, and it's got links to our YouTube videos for each of these. And so, yeah, you can watch tonight's and share it with friends. And you can also watch previous ones if you've missed other gatherings. So thank you for asking.
And I can probably post a link on my website for the STAR project as well.
Yeah, I think that this is a story, this is a program that people need to hear about. I think we walk with the story through the crime and the trial, and then a lot of the rest of the story goes forgotten, and that's to our detriment. That hurts us to forget that we have neighbors who need to be welcomed back into the community for everyone's health and safety and happiness. Oh yeah, okay, so Zidane just posted the kind of the announcement for today. If you go to that website here, actually I'm gonna just send a quick, you can get there from that page, but this is actually the simpler address right there, pioneerww.org/WWS. There we go. Okay. All right, well, who should have the last word here tonight? I'm wondering if, Cindy, you'd like to share any other thoughts that have bubbled up with you, and then we'll turn it over to Becky, and then we'll let our friends go out and have a good night's rest. Cindy, do you have any other thoughts?
Oh, thank you, Leaf. I don't. I just can't strongly enough support the STAR project or advocate for them, because it is such an important cog in the wheel, And Becky, thank you for inviting me here tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Cindy. I owe you that coffee.
No problem.
My parting words are generally the same for almost any group. And I'm going to change them just a little bit because I know that I'm speaking to people in a church. And we're called upon to serve our community. And our community is larger than the small circle we choose to associate ourselves with. I have been a Walla Walla resident, a Melton Freewater resident my whole life. And I never thought about what was going on up in the hill. I knew that I had friends and family members who worked in law enforcement or the Department of Corrections as like a prison guard. And I never considered what happened to people as they came out of incarceration. And if there's one thing that I want to leave people with tonight and every night, and this one, it hasn't changed, second chances are worth it. And they're hard to give. Forgiveness is held within each of us. And that's how we're going to move forward in life. We can't continue to hold on to the hurts and the injuries. We can't punish people for their crimes over and over and over again. At some point, we have to come to the conclusion that if a person has served their time, they are free, and they should be afforded everything that any free person should experience. And so I'll just leave you with second chances are worth it.
Amen. Thank you, Becky. Well, thank you, friends, for being with us tonight. Thank you, Becky, and thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Zidane. And we look forward to continuing this conversation and learning more and more together. So keep your eyes peeled for the recording of this conversation and do share it. We would love that. And come back next month as we continue the conversation. And details on that are TBD. But you can find out more information on our Facebook page and on the website. And until then, God bless you and keep you. And thanks for being with us tonight. We'll see you guys later. Bye.